I'd like to introduce Mr. Bob Holmstrom. Bob, why don't you tell the folks when you, yes, definitely, when did you get over to England and joining the 492nd? So I'll turn the mic to you.
Okay, I got over to England in December of 1944 while the Battle of the Bulge was going on. Overseas on the Ile-de-France, which was the second largest ship at the time. The Queen Mary was the largest. And we had a little submarine trouble on the way. I was sent to the airfield number 179. That was 85 miles northwest of London. It was a secret Air Force base. No politicians or photographers were allowed within 5 miles of my base. Nobody. There was no saluting on our base. There was no rank. Everybody was addressed as Mr. We were trained at that time to talk parts of several languages. So in case we crash landed in one country or other and learn how to eat their style, how to drink their style, how to eat their style. If you made a mistake when the Patriots were trying to get you home and you switched from one hand to the other, you may have been dead right now. It was a good learning experience. We had some good leaders. My major on my airfield treated us really, really well. We had people in Europe, because we flew at night, only when the moon was out. We had to be able to see the ground. We were flying below 500 feet in an operation. Sometimes, my pilot, for instance, we would fly down the Danube River to drop supplies to the underground. And he'd bank the ship 90 degrees to coincide with the curve in the river. And I could look out and I'd look up at a castle. That's how low we were. And at night, with the equipment we had, we were medieval. It's not like pressing the computer that tells you where you're at. I had a very good navigator. He knew where we were at exactly all the time. My navigator would come over the radio every now and then on the way to the target. And he would say, 5 kilometers over that way, there's an orphanage. And we'd run for 8-9 minutes again, and he'd say, over to your left, he says, 10 kilometers, there's a monastery, and it may be a good place that you could go to and be fairly safe temporarily till we can get you out. They had everything all planned. Some of our people, it took them a couple months to get back to England again because they ended up in Spain, Portugal, got out of there and come back. So it was very interesting. What we did was purely humanitarian. Our outfit supported 300,000 underground people that were harassing the Germans. Now, we dropped containers. We could carry 10 of those containers, and they were about this round. They were heavy cardboard, and they were strapped together. They had a bumper on the bottom, so when they hit the ground, they wouldn't destroy what was in the container. And the parachute would open up. We'd have to drop our speed below 120 miles an hour, so we wouldn't rip that parachute, because it had a lot of important stuff in there. For instance, they had dynamite to blow up railroad tracks, throwaway pistols, Bren guns, bicycles, blood plasma, clothes, boots, whatever the Patriots needed to live with. They were very dependable about things that we dropped. And the women, we found out later on, they made underwear out of the parachutes.
Good stuff, Bob. I was just going to point out a couple things, folks. The airplane that Bob flew in was not a B-17. It was called a B-24 Liberator. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. There's actually a photo over there. It's the airplane to the right of where it says World War II bomber cruise. But Bob flew in a very special type of B-24. His airplane wasn't silver. It wasn't olive drab and gray. It was pure black. And that's just because of the clandestine missions that they flew. The 492nd Bomb Group's operations were top secret until about 40 years after the war. They were allowed to talk about it, and it was kind of new information. Nobody really knew what these guys actually did. And it's an interesting fact that, like Bob said, the French resistance, the Dutch resistance, they all had to be supplied with ammunition or material to do what they were doing. And the way that they couldn't go down to Walmart and buy their supplies. So that's exactly what Bob's outfit did, was to supply and to keep the strength of the resistance fighters. Bob flew as a tail gunner. And did you encounter at any time? Did you encounter any time in any of your missions at all with any of the Germans to attack you, or any flak or anything along that line? Or describe a mission, because he didn't fly it during the day. He was on the night shift. So describe a little of that to the folks here, Bob.
On a normal mission, and a normal mission at night, we'd only fly when the moon was out. We had to be able to see the ground. And we flew in my first 5 missions. I flew as a nose gunner, and what happened was my tail gunner would always take a quart bottle of coffee with him. And my tail gunner, they discovered when he got back and interrogated him that he was half liquor in that thing. So they took him and he went to the Battle of the Bulge. And we never heard nothing about him again. But my first 5 missions in the nose, we were flying about 18,000 feet. And like from here to that far wall of this hangar, there was flak coming up. And at night, that little burst, it scared the devil out of me, I tell you. And those 5 missions I will never forget. And I was kind of happy to get back in the tail and look where we had been. And I know I was safe that far. But the tail gunner position, the lifetime of a tail gunner was 15 seconds of combat. But I was so lucky, and when the ME 109s come at us, they had more firepower than what we had in our airplane. They had 2 20-millimeter cannon, one in each right and the left wing, plus their machine guns. So when they let out a burst of fire at night coming at you, you knew it. And if you got hit by a 20-millimeter at that time, you were done. All our protection was the thickness of a matchbook cover to the outside of the airplane. There was no armor plating, no helmets, no life vests, nothing. Just what we were wearing at that time. Then we never got attacked a whole bunch because the Germans didn't bother too much with a single aircraft flying alone. They didn't bother them a whole bunch. And we would fly 5 or 6 dog legs to our main target, so we could divert and fly there safely and come out the same way without them knowing exactly what our drop site was. So, and the Patriots on the ground would build 3 fires in a row and one off to the side. When we passed over the target to drop the supplies, we would drop it on the side where the single fire was. The Patriots down there would come out over the mountains, out to the countryside, and they'd be waiting there for us, and we had a separate communications. So we would be within 5 minutes of the drop site and be gone, and they'd pick up the stuff and they'd be gone. So it was a good system altogether. It seemed to work quite well. They said with our participation in what we were doing shortened the war at least by a year and a half or so, because the Germans were harassed so badly by our people that we dropped supplies to. It was so satisfactory. I felt very good about what I did during the war. We did all humanitarian work. We never really shot at anybody unless they shot at us, and that was for our own protection. But we would go out, and sometimes we would lose 2 or 3 ships, and of course if we did that, we lost 10 people. So we lost 30 people that time. The first ship back to England, we'd all sit by the control tower and listen for the other 24s to come back. And we could hear those engines a long ways away, and we'd sit there and count them, so we know who survived and who did not survive. When we got to the mess hall, intelligence was waiting for us. They were waiting for us to ask us questions if we seen fires or German tanks or army any place along the line, and where were the fires. We had to try to remember where we were at that time. The intelligence officer would give us about 3 fingers of cognac, and I wasn't a drinker, but I finally got some down. We got interviewed at one time. Then we went to the mess hall and we had a full breakfast. We didn't have ordinary army food. We had nice fresh eggs and milk and ham and bacon and pancakes and whatever we wanted to eat. After that, we went back and seen the intelligence officer again, because maybe talking with our other buddies, we remembered something that we had forgotten to tell them the first time. And then we were released to go rest, because we had been up like 20 hours at that time. And then we were released. We probably didn't go out for 3, 4, 5 days again on another mission. And we had to get ready all over again and make another trip. And we did that, and we survived the war fairly good.
Very good, thank you. Say, living in England, you were the base where he was at was kind of out in the sticks. It was kind of up in an area northwest or northeast of London, northeast of London, called East Anglia, and about the most populous city close to them was Norwich, if you know what that is, or if you got a good pass, you went to London. And tell us about your experiences maybe with the English and intermixing with the British citizens.
The British citizens were very, very good people. They suffered so much. You can't realize what it is to lose everything, and fires all over, the B-2 bombs coming overhead, and you could see him, the jet stream behind him when I was in London. And when the sound stops, then look out, because that bomb is coming straight down, wherever it is, coming right straight down. And it destroys everything for a couple blocks around. Nothing stands anymore. But the British people were very good, and I learned how to drink tea with a little bit of milk in it, and learned to eat rabbit. I had never had rabbit when I was in the United States and at home. But the main diet when you went to town was rabbit dinner. And the other one was fish and chips, potatoes and French fried fish. And it was wrapped in a newspaper. Whatever newspaper it was, I don't know. They treated us really, really well. I met a nice British couple there, and I went to church one Sunday and met them again, and they invited me to their home. Now, nobody had a telephone. All the telephones were booths on the roads as you went through town. They had a telephone. They were pretty well-to-do. They also had a car. He showed me his car. Now, this is really something. He showed me, and we walked around his car, and I told him how nice it looked and everything, and he showed me in the back, of course, and I put my foot up on the bumper. Boy, did I offend him. You don't put your foot on any part of the car or touch a part that you are not using or don't need to use. And it took me quite a while to apologize to him. But finally got invited back to his house again, so everything worked out pretty well.
Bob has kind of made a circuit in the last few years. He's been honored at a Minnesota Vikings game. He's been honored at the Target Field to hoist the colors before the Star Spangled Banner. And he still continues to tell his story, which is pretty amazing because, well, you're what now, 67? Was it? 97, that's what it is. I was close. That's what you told the young lady this morning, though. No. Anyway, no, Bob is a very spry 97 and a half years old. And I'll tell you what, if you want to really bring a nice souvenir home, not a shameless plug, this is honestly a really good opportunity. Bob has written his story down called Warbirds in the Cloak of Darkness, and it's about his personal time in England, and his daughter, Jenny, over here, is over at the booth, along with Jim Rasmussen, who we heard from this morning. It's $20, that's it. Great book, and Bob will be happy to autograph it and personalize it. So we've been in the company of a very true American hero this afternoon. I appreciate you guys listening to him. And Bob, thank you so much for being with us. It's just an honor and a treat.